Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Can y'all hear me now? And how about now? Now? Oh, that is annoying. I'm not going to get into all the technical details, but it is getting on my nerves a little bit. Anyway, welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where masculinity is in full effect and faith has not been neutered. Today's Tuesday, February 24th in the year of our Lord 2026. And we're not just talking about politics. This is spiritual warfare and suicidal empathy that is dressed up as progress. We are absolutely done pretending, done pulling punches, and we are not apologizing. So we are done. So grab your therapy dog and get ready for some truth, because this is going to hurt. All right. A couple of things I want to get off my chest right off the bat. Obviously, congratulations. I haven't had a chance to talk about this since it happened, but congratulations to the USA hockey team for defeating America's hat, Canada, and winning gold. They were invited to tonight's State of the Union address, and they gladly accepted. The women's hockey team didn't. I'm going to leave that for y'all to discuss amongst yourselves. So again, congratulations to the USA hockey team for a job well done. And I also want to briefly touch on another attempt on President Trump's life. He was on Sunday morning, the U.S. Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department neutralized the threat. And it just goes to show that the rhetoric that is being put out there is radicalizing these lunatics. That's the only explanation. The suspect has been identified. His name is all over the place. His name is Austin Tucker Martin from North Carolina. He was reported missing. And he was carrying a shotgun and a can of gasoline for some reason. Who knows what his intent was? One of the things that has really annoyed me about this, aside from the fact that it actually happened in the first place, is the left's reaction to the suspect being neutralized. You get all these left-wing people, he didn't have to die, and why didn't they shoot him to wound him or whatever. And it's like, I agree, he didn't have to die. He didn't have to show up at 1:30 in the morning with a shotgun. Intent you can infer from that is that he wanted to kill someone, obviously the president. And it turns out he was, we don't have a whole lot of information about him, but it turns out he was obsessed with the Epstein files, which is one of the things that the left has been harping about forever. And so it's no surprise when you get these unstable people focused on this one thing that the left has themselves been focused on. Well, you're going to get this kind of extreme behavior. And so that's pretty much the extent of what we know so far. We don't know if the actual motive was his obsession with the Epstein files. There's been no confirmed political affiliation that we know of, or that I saw before we came on the air. So we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully we get some answers, and this doesn't drag on and then get lost in the sauce like so many of these things often do. So that's that. We'll update as things progress. But now I want to get into the actual meat of the show that I had prepared. And there were few other things that I wanted to talk about, but I'll spend the entire show talking about that and not get to what I actually prepared for today. So I want to get into sovereignty. And sovereignty is not something that is guaranteed just by declaring yourself a nation state. Or it's not guaranteed for anything. It's not guaranteed for nations. It's not guaranteed for cultures. It's not guaranteed for individuals. It's tested. It's tested in what we tolerate, in what we depend on, and what we are willing to defend. Sovereignty doesn't just survive on autopilot. And if we don't govern ourselves culturally, economically, spiritually, we are inviting someone else to do it for us. So the question is pretty simple. Are we sovereign, or are we going to be subjugated? And I think you can guess where that's going, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. Another big event that happened, and this is something that I had prepared, but another big event was Mexican forces killing El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. I'm not going to try to say it in Spanish. And by taking him out with U.S. intel help, by taking him out, that caused a huge conflagration in Mexico, in Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. And that triggered the State Department to order American citizens who were there vacationing. Given what's been going on in Mexico over the past few years, I don't know why anyone would vacation in Mexico, honestly. I really don't. I've been once or twice. I have absolutely no desire to go again. Been there, done that. And until things change, I don't see any reason for any American to go to Mexico at this point, because it's such a volatile place. But the cartel, in the power vacuum of their leader being taken out, there were roadblocks, vehicle fires. Mexico has. This is just another illustration of the fact that Mexico has pretty much collapsed. There is plenty of footage, and we're going to play a couple of these videos, but there's plenty of footage of just the chaos that has ensued over in or down in Mexico. Let's take a look at this real quick. And we're not going to play all of these.
No mames. ¿Están bien?
This is in, I believe, Puerto Vallarta Airport. Just violence erupting, chaos ensuing. And they deal with this kind of stuff almost on a regular basis down there. And it's, again, I don't know why anyone would go there. And I mentioned that there was a shelter-in-place order. This is an American who was trapped. Now, the violence has somewhat subsided at this point, but it's probably going to ratchet back up. But this is an American who is reporting from down there.
Reporting live from Mexico, about 25 minutes from Puerto Vallarta, where there's a massive cartel war happening right now. Last night, one of the biggest cartel bosses was captured. There was a 10 million bounty on his head. Now, Puerto Vallarta is on fire. The airport is shut down. All local businesses and transportation shut down. And along the highway, all the way from Puerto Vallarta, there's one major highway from there to all the little towns. Along the highway, buses, transports, Ubers, taxis are all being lit on fire on the highway. So we have been told not to leave. We're safe at our condo. I will report back with more information.
I mean, there is absolutely no reason to go to Mexico at this point, and not for any time in the near future, honestly. Now, there were reports that some Americans had been taken hostage. I haven't confirmed that. That was probably some kind of hoax. There were some AI videos going around of Americans and just civilians in general being shot in the street. There are some civilian casualties, but some of those videos have been debunked as AI. So we're just going to have to wait for some corroboration on a lot of this. Now, there are a lot of, as I said, a lot of tourists in Puerto Vallarta, retirees, some expats in Jalisco for some reason. I don't get that either. And they're trapped. Flights were canceled. The things have started to loosen up, as I said, because the violence has subsided. This is bad. This is bad, and it's only going to get worse because this is just going to keep happening. This is just going to keep happening. And that is a question that we have to answer as a country. I mean, they are on our southern, they border us to the south. And so what does that look like for us in terms of national security? And the CJNG, they're not just a random gang. They are one of the fastest growing and one of the most powerful cartels in Mexico. And so the Mexican authorities, they did take out the leader. But we all know, we've seen it before, we've seen it for decades. That just leads to even more volatility. Infrastructure disruption, retaliation, and all of these cartels have paramilitary capabilities. There's reports that this cartel trained in Ukraine. And a lot of these high-level cartel bosses were police officers, were Mexican special forces and things like that. So it's not like they are just random criminals. These guys tactically know what they're doing, obviously. And because these people, these monsters know what they're doing, when this happens, it's a challenge to the state's control. And there's a phenomenon when this happens called calentar la plaza, heat up the plaza. It's a thing, and it comes in waves, which is why I said, yes, the violence has subsided, but you don't know when it's going to ratchet back up again. Are they pulling back so that people will start to go about their normal business, and then they can go right back in and cause more damage and destruction? That's been the pattern. That's been the pattern. And so given all of that, the question then becomes, is this strictly an internal security issue with Mexico? Or is it national security concern for us? The answer to me is yes. Yes, it's internal, but yes, it is also a national security concern for us, because when the borders were just thrown wide open, and it didn't just start with Biden, but when the borders were thrown open, that security concern internal to Mexico became ours, as evidenced by all of the people who have died as a result of drug overdoses imported smuggled would be a better term, over our southern border. Imported actually suggests that it was legal, and we know that it's not. So I know a lot of people have speculated whether or not we were going to intervene militarily, and President Trump even threw that out there. We have been sharing intelligence with Mexico, and that's good. Do we directly intervene? I don't know. What do you think? Personally, if we do, I think it has to be done very strategically. And if we do, not only does it have to be very strategic, but it has to be done with devastating effectiveness. Like, never to see another cartel return again, because otherwise there's no point to it. There's no point otherwise. And so that directly impacts our sovereignty and Mexico's as well. And I've seen people talking about it's time to just go ahead and take Mexico. I don't know about all that, but I mean, we are in the middle of exercising our dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe it's time to do something. Maybe it's time to do something a little more than just share intel. And again, we don't know necessarily that U.S. troops weren't involved in what happened with this. Doesn't seem like it, but we'll see what happens. This is a priority for us, though, especially given the people who are still trapped in Mexico. Do we send people to get them out if this doesn't subside? I don't know. Maybe. If Americans are trapped for an extended period of time, it's definitely something to consider. If Americans are hiding out in hotel rooms and resorts that are running out of food, while cartels are shutting down cities and shutting down highways and burning vehicles and killing people in the street, at some point, it's not just Mexico's problem. All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I want to pivot to something else that touches on our sovereignty. I think in just as important and just as maybe even more immediate, and that is what is happening in New York. In New York, I don't know if Ramadan is still going on. I think it is. But when it kicked off, there was I really don't understand how it got to this level, but it did. And so when Ramadan kicked off, we had a bunch of Islamists basically take over Times Square.
Giving that, yo, make some noise from the bottom of the water right now, baby. MashaAllah, yeah. Takbir! Oh, don't scare them, brothers. Relax. They're over here on purpose to be like, oh my God. Who's seen those videos where they're like, oh my God, the Muslims are taking over New York City? You seen those? You seen those? Let them know that we are taking over New York City. Takbir! Oh my God. Giving that, yo, make some.
So, again, I've been saying this for as long as we've been talking about radical Islam. They have made no bones about saying that they are here to take over. And you just heard it. You just heard it. And that guy, I can't remember his name, but he's a fairly well-known rising star, I guess, in the Muslim world. He's an imam or a cleric of something. And he's expressing what a lot of these Islamist clerics are expressing, and he's expressing what is laid out in the Quran. He's expressing what their prophet did. He conquered Islam spread through conquest, not through persuasion, and make no mistake about it. You have stuff like that. You have the Muslim call to prayer being broadcast all throughout New York City. And it's being framed as religious diversity, First Amendment rights. And America does, we do protect religious expression. For good or ill, we protect religious expression. Churches, synagogues, even mosques, street preachers, public prayer. And even though this was billed as a public prayer, he explicitly said they were there to take over. And I know that for something like that, you need permits and all this other stuff. With Mamdani in office, who knows if they even bothered? Who knows if they even bothered? My guess is probably not. But the issue is not worship. The issue is not prayer. The issue is whether something more than that is happening. And if you've been following me at all, you know that there is something more than that happening. It's a deliberate, strategic signal to amplify the words that they've been saying for years. Amplifying the words that you just heard him say, that they're here to take over. It's not just prayer, because the Constitution allows for people to worship how they see fit. But when you're talking about a political doctrine, a political way of life taking over, that's something else entirely. Something else entirely. And there are people who are trying to stand up to that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna play that here in a little bit. There is a growing caucus in the United States Congress called the Sharia Free America Caucus. Right now, there are only 40 or 41 members. I don't know why there aren't more. I don't know why every Republican is not a member of this caucus. And what they're doing is they are submitting bills to ban Sharia law and to rein in this takeover that the Islamists are trying to implement. Critics, people who are saying that this is intolerant, they're saying that it's an infringement on their First Amendment rights, that it's discriminatory. You know my stance on it. Good. This country was not built on Islamic doctrine. It just wasn't. And so our Constitution allows Muslims to worship and pray freely in their mosques. And okay, go for it. But as soon as they step out and start talking about taking over, well, that's something else entirely. That's something that we just can't abide. And why anyone would is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. And so with respect to this anti-Sharia caucus, there are some bills, but I don't have them in front of me at the moment. But Sharia law is the way Islam prescribes people to worship and portray the faith, their faith. The two are intertwined. I've talked about this almost ad nauseum at this point, but it bears repeating. You can't be a Muslim and not follow Sharia. At that point, you're just a cultural Muslim. So is Sharia supposed to be a personal moral code, or is it a competing legal authority? And we know that it is a competing legal authority. Muslims have said on numerous occasions, they don't recognize laws outside of Sharia. And all we have to do is look at Europe. All we have to do is look at Europe. And when you talk about suicidal empathy, this is what you get. And I don't know if you can see that, but this is a story in the Western Journal. Actual convicted terrorist might hold office in European country he plotted against. What? If that is not the epitome of suicidal empathy, I don't know what is. A man once convicted of plotting a terrorist attack on a British consulate is now campaigning for public office in the UK's second largest city of Birmingham. This guy, Shahid Boot, is campaigning on a pro-Gaza platform in an area where white residents make up just 8% of the population. Now, I looked to see what the population breakdown is, and I couldn't really find the breakdown in terms of a religious breakdown, but it's majority Asian, British, and over there they call Middle Eastern people Asian. So you be the judge. It is most likely, almost certainly, majority Muslim, which means he is almost certainly going to win. And they already, in fact, let's take a look at this report, because this should bring it into stark relief. There we go.
50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000, and more are arriving every day. As the people who lead these countries try to do what Joe Biden tried to do here, and that is fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of a nation and make white Christians a minority in their own country. In England alone, right now, 10 major cities, including London, now have Muslim mayors in a nation that was built around the Church of England. Muslims are now running major cities across the country for the first time in history, and the English want us to believe that this is all normal.
The Muslim will come out and he will stand for truth and he will stand for justice. May Allah give us the ability to stand for the haqq.
So this is not the Middle East. It's not East Minneapolis even. That is England. And when you see images like that, you can't help but ask why anyone, a prime minister or a president or a king, would deliberately try to destroy their own country. Why would you do that? Why is this being done? And because European leaders still celebrate our failed experiment in open borders, it failed here in the United States, and because they've chosen to stand with radical Muslims over their own people, it's because of all of these reasons these countries are falling apart and failing as the attack on Western civilization continues.
Yeah. What more is there to say? That was perfectly stated. Perfectly stated. These, I mean, that's the epitome of suicidal empathy, is it not? In the name of tolerance. Now, there are people over in England. Tommy Robinson, he was famously run out of England for his opposition to Islam and Sharia law. But there's another guy who I've seen some of his videos where he publicly debates Muslims, and he's not having it. And I came across this as I was preparing the show, and this is I love this. Check this out.
I don't think in my country, believe me, every inch of this land is mine. My ancestors have lived here for over 1,000 years. I don't believe in bending anything to newcomers. You've chosen to live in my country. You live by our ways. We have the right to intellectually criticize one another's faiths. As a Christian, I'm not intimidated by that. We've already gone through hundreds of years of doing this to ourselves. Christianity can stand up to it. Islam, by contrast, is pretty new to the world of getting criticized intellectually. It is absolutely right to criticize Muhammad, his conduct, his words, his right to criticize the Quran. And if you don't like that, go and live somewhere else. We will be better off without you in this country. I want a country that will destroy anyone who does not accept the terms that I offered. Any Islamist who tries to impose Sharia law, any Islamist who thinks that we're going to use violence because you criticized our prophet or you criticized our book, I want a country that will destroy their lives, take away their kids, chuck them in prison, stop them having jobs, boot them out of the country. I do not want to tolerate any Muslim living in this country that does not accept the Christian heritage of this land and what comes with that. If you are willing to accept the Christian heritage of the nation, then there's a place for you. It's not just get rid of Muslims because they're Muslims. But I don't give a shit about Islamists. I think we need to ruin their lives, and anyone who even slightly hints at an Islamist ideology should be dealt with mercilessly, ruthlessly. Are we clear about the term?
We are clear about the terms. And I think, once again, he is spot on. You choose to live in a country that does not worship Allah. You chose to live in a country that is a Christian nation. Don't like it, get out. But they don't want to. And countries like the UK are just letting it happen. Just letting it happen. And to a large extent, we're letting it happen here. I've talked about what's going on in Texas, and it is, they're turning Texas into an Islamic state. They got a long way to go. I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight, but they are trying. They are trying. Mosques open at the rate of 2 a month, something like that. It's ridiculous. And come to find out, Greg Abbott has a strong Islamic financial backer. So all the lip service that he pays to stopping Sharia law, how much is he actually going to do? When the threat to his his coffers is right there. This is not just a First Amendment issue. This is not just a right to worship issue. This is a direct threat to the sovereignty of this country. And they have made no bones about being so. You heard the video that I played at the beginning of this. They are here to take over. I played videos where they say Islam is going to be in every home. Islam was built on conquest. They have a jizya where if you don't want to convert, you can pay them to leave you alone. Of course, they're not going to leave you alone. They're going to take your money and then they're going to kill you. And I made this distinction before. I am a Christian. Christians aren't going around beheading people who don't want to convert. We will talk to you. We will try to persuade you. We will pray for you. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. Muslims don't see it that way. They are here to take over. And if you don't submit, and as I've said before, Islam means submission. And a Muslim is someone who has submitted. They're not here to go along, get along. They're here to subjugate you. And anyone who doesn't believe that is either not paying attention or just naive, to put it mildly. Tolerance is a virtue, and tolerance can be a good thing. But what tolerance is not is a suicide pact. And that's what we're seeing take place over in the UK, over in Europe as a whole. And what we're seeing in Texas and other places where they're allowing this madness to continue is greed. They like that Islamic money. Tucker Carlson being a perfect example. You can defend religious freedom. But you can also, at the same time, defend your civilization. And those are not opposing views, regardless of how they want to frame it, regardless of how the American Pravda wants to frame it. They're not opposing views. We just have to decide which direction we're gonna go. All right, y'all. Let's get a word in from our sponsor today. And today's show is actually sponsored by the SHR Media Shop. And you can head over to missionreadymen.com and click Shop 7 Armors, and you'll see the SHR Media Shop right up top. And that's where you can get all of the great designs that we have there. The one that we really want to get people to check out is the 250 Reasons shirt. The 250 Reasons to read source documents in honor of the 250th anniversary of the birth of this great nation. So head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors and hit the SHR Media Shop and check out all of the great designs that we have there. All right. Now that we got that business out of the way, I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch our great lineup, Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. He will be on tonight, so be sure to check out him and all of the great shows that we have. And I just want to thank you all for being here. We crossed that 1,000 subscriber threshold, and we are knocking on the door to 1,100. Obviously, the goal is to get to 2,000 at this point, and we would love your help in doing that. We had a huge breakthrough with getting to 1,000, and we're still climbing. So thank you all very much for that, and thank you all for being in the chat. And I want to thank the moderators for keeping things civil over there. I can see that some things tend to get heated every now and then because I I bring up some things that get people heated. So thank you all for being here. Whether you agree with me or not, thanks for being in the chat. We really appreciate it. And again, thank the moderators for keeping things under control in the chat. All right, now back to the briefing. And I wanted to touch on this because, again, this happened after my last show last week. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But I wanted to talk about the tariffs and the Supreme Court ruling against President Trump on the tariff issue. Now, Article 2 of the Constitution vests executive power with the president. He's the commander in chief. He conducts all foreign affairs. He conducts trade policy and international negotiations. And trade policy is an international negotiation. And so if trade policy is an international negotiation, then he has the authority to impose these tariffs. You can't conform policy by country. At the end of the day, a decision has to be made. And that decision lies with the president, the chief executive. And tariffs, as he has expertly used, are leverage. It's diplomacy. And diplomacy is with the executive branch. Now, he, again, expertly used tariffs as economic statecraft. And he did it brilliantly, in my estimation. He used it against China, he used it against the EU, he used it against Mexico. And they all folded. They all folded. And the left kept saying it's going to be an economic disaster. And lo and behold, we're having some of the best economic news that we've had in quite some time. Despite the fact that the American Pravda will not report on it. But what else is new? Congress, and this is the other thing, Congress has delegated a lot of its authority away. And they complained about this when when Brybin was in office. They complained about it. The American Pravda and a lot of prominent leftists were saying that the president has too much authority, that the Congress has delegated too much of their authority away to the president. Well, don't like it, change that law, change those laws. But as they stand right now, the president has the authority. They passed IEPA, and that authorizes the president to regulate imports during national emergencies. Whether you believe what was happening when he imposed those was a national emergency or not, that's up for discussion, and we can have that discussion. But if imports can be regulated, then tariffs are a regulatory mechanism. It's not a tax, it's a pressure point. And these trade wars that we have been dealing with, they are geopolitical contests, basically. If the executive, the president, can impose embargoes, freeze assets, then tariffs are not, it's not a huge leap constitutionally to impose tariffs, especially when that authority has been delegated by Congress. And Justice Kavanaugh, that's exactly how he saw it. And Justice Kavanaugh, he is the president has had some disappointing picks as he's had some disappointing picks for his Supreme Court nominees. Kavanaugh, probably the least disappointing. I'm trying to find his dissent, because his dissent, I thought I had it here, but I guess not. Anyway, his dissent was pretty spot on. And he dissented from the majority because he felt that they drew an artificial line when it came to regulation of imports, and that it should include tariffs. And he pointed out that historically presidents have exercised and delegated trade powers broadly. And he also pointed out that Congress has repeatedly given presidents a lot of trade authority. And again, his dissent was pretty spot on. And I don't, and like I said before, President Trump's Supreme Court nominees have been disappointing. He is the least of those disappointments. And when you look at that in terms of rumors that Alito is going to retire, and the fact that Justice Thomas is in the very twilight of his career, that could be a disaster if he doesn't get the right nominees to replace them, because the chances are he's going to get to replace at least one of them before his term is up. But anyway, getting back to this, Article 1 gives Congress the power to levy taxes and duties. But as I mentioned before, they have delegated that to a lot of that to the executive. And the president counters, the executive counters with the idea that Congress created this emergency tool that he used. Congress uses broad language that doesn't specify a whole lot. And they knew that tariffs were a possible remedy for what was happening. The fact that the Supreme Court actually did this is, I think it indicates something. Well, it obviously indicates that the people that he nominated to the court were not as friendly as he had hoped. We'll put it that way. I know that their job is to interpret the law without any partisanship, but I think it's obvious that they did. When you are agreeing with the left-wing lunatics of Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan, that should give you pause to reevaluate your entire situation, honestly, because they are as left-wing, bat crap crazy as you can possibly get. So I'm just going to leave that there. We'll see how this plays out. But it speaks right to the sovereignty of this country and the economic sovereignty that we have. And if we just allow these foreign governments to take advantage of us without any pushback whatsoever, do we even have a country? That's and of course we know that the left doesn't really think that we are a legitimate country anyway. So there's that. All right, I want to move on. I want to talk about something else on the economic front. And this was actually kind of funny. Canada, we talked about Canada and the fact that they lost the gold medal. But there was a story out of Canada that that the Canada's GDP comparison has them below the GDP of Alabama. That is absolutely amazing. And I want to bring this up because I want to make sure I get this right. I'm gonna try to pull it up real quick and read something from this story because it it is absolutely amazing. Here we go. This is from Red State. And say what you want about Red State, whether it's a conservative outlet or right wing, whatever the case may be. But this was this was awesome. Canada flew to Alabama for an ego check. The numbers already spoke. The Globe and Mail, they went to Alabama and found that, again, their GDP was lower than that of Alabama. The purchasing power parity adjusted numbers put Canada below Alabama in global GDP. And so people have this thing about, or Alabama, I guess, has a reputation or had a reputation for being kind of country, backwoods, whatever the case may be. And let me just say, before we moved to Arkansas, Alabama was on our list. Alabama is beautiful. Alabama is absolutely beautiful. Some of the property that we looked at in Alabama was amazing. And the taxes, super low, which kind of speaks to how this actually happened. Because in 1993, Mercedes invested heavily in Alabama, and Alabama is a right to work state. They have a lot of incentives and not a lot of red tape, so they can get things to market quickly. Huntsville, Alabama is home to a number of aerospace, biotech, and biotech companies. Eli Lilly has say what you want about Eli Lilly, but they have a $6 billion plant in Huntsville, Alabama. Alabama's economy is not what you conjure in your mind, I guess, when you think of Alabama and the country vibe that it tends to portray, or that is portrayed in the media. Alabama, and think about this. I mean, think about all of the provinces in Canada that want to secede from Canada. Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Alberta is on the move the most when it comes to trying to secede from Canada. And there's a large contingent that actually wants to join the United States. Reports have warned for years that Canada's economic outlook is not good. And Alberta has their independent economy is booming, and they don't want to deal with the regulations that the rest of Canada is dealing with, and so they're fighting tooth and nail to get out of that. And this is why, because the entire country of Canada has a GDP. It fluctuates. So right now, I think it's actually a little bit above, but it hovers around that of Alabama, the state of Alabama. That to me is hilarious. So Canada needs to realize that the regulations, the mobility of capital, the complacency, the open borders, the high taxes, the fact that they have no rights, basically. And yes, that's hyperbolic, no rights, but you get my point. They feel like they're, I don't know, too advanced to try and compete. And so they get left in the dust by Alabama. All right. This is what I really wanted to get to today. No, I actually haven't been to Canada and really don't have any interest in it. So there's that. But anyway, this is what I really wanted to get to today, because this is something that has it's been on my mind. It's been in the public consciousness now for a while. It's something that the left has conjured up as this boogeyman. And what it is Christian nationalism. And if you ask me if I'm a Christian nationalist, you're going to have to define what you mean by that. And if you define it the way we're going to hear here in a second, if you define it the way they define it, well then, yeah, probably. But that's not how a lot of people define it. But let's take a look at this, because a lot of people think that Christian nationalism is this radical right-wing movement, that it's a shift in culture. And what it basically is Christians acting like Christians. And that's somehow radical. If Christians vote their values, if Christians if Christians vote their values, then that's somehow nationalism. But when people who don't follow Christianity vote their values, then that's democracy. And they view Christian nationalism as a threat to democracy. So let's take a look at this, because I'm going to play this video and I'm going to start and stop it and talk about it. It's a long video, but there's some things that I want to go over as it goes. So check this out.
Well, for the past several months, I've been working on a special project examining the growing influence of Christian nationalism in America. If you're not familiar, Christian nationalism is an ideology rooted in the belief that our country was founded as a Christian nation and that our laws and institutions should reflect Christian values.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Now I didn't get a chance to watch this whole special, because when it was on, CNN was running coverage of the blizzard and it got preempted, and I haven't seen it posted yet. So, but this is enough to give you the idea of what they're going for here.
In the lead up to my hour-long documentary this weekend, we're going to bring you a preview of what you'll see, starting off with the assassination of Charlie Kirk last year. Experts say it was a pivotal moment for the movement and an occasion where the tragedy of his loss unified Christian nationalists and the Trump administration.
What experts? And what are these experts? What are these people expert in?
As they honored him.
September 21st, 2025.
America is a nation in grief, a nation in shock, and a nation in mourning. Charles James Kirk was heinously murdered.
Forgive him. Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist and prominent Christian nationalist, was assassinated. It became a rallying call for those who believed in his message.
Our greatest evangelist for American liberty became immortal.
And it was a call to action.
My charge to all of you, put Christ at the center of your life as he advocated for giving his.
Memorial service was one of the most potent examples of this shift in our culture that we're experiencing right now.
This guy, wow. What shift is he talking about? Shift from what to what exactly?
Right now, where a large segment of American Christians are being activated by these ideas, radicalized by these ideas that say that they are the persecuted ones and that they need to stand up for Christians' rights.
Well, who else is going to do it? Obviously not you. Obviously not the American Pravda. Obviously not the Democrat Party. So if you, regardless of your religion, ethnicity, whatever the case may be, if you believe you are being persecuted, if you believe that your rights are being trampled on, are you just going to let somebody else defend you? Are you just going to sit back and say, maybe it'll get better? Or are you going to stand up and say, no, no more? Seems like that's part of the principles this country was founded on. The people who oppose this don't believe that America was founded as a Christian nation, period. They don't believe that. They don't believe that the founding fathers were largely Christian, even though the founding documents mention God. The founding documents quote from scripture. Deuteronomy is the most quoted scripture in our founding documents. But no, it's on our money. In God we trust. But somehow we weren't founded as a Christian nation. It's amazing. It's amazing the cognitive dissonance that a lot of these people have, or it's just ignorance of history. It's one of the two, and could be a combination. Who knows? I talked about this before. Laws reflect somebody's morality. Now, do you want the morality of Islam to be reflected in our laws? Do you want the morality of Satanists to be reflected in our lives? Or do you want the morality of Christians to be reflected in our lives? And I know, of course, people are going to say, some people will probably say none of the above. Well, then, if that's the case, then whose morality would you prefer? Or would you just prefer anarchy? If morality doesn't have any place in the law, then the law is meaningless. The law has no moral authority at all. And if it has no moral authority, then why bother following it? I've talked about this before. Every institution protects someone's worldview. There is no neutrality. So what this shows us is that the real fear is not religion and politics. The real fear is Christian morality and politics. And the reason why is because Christian morality makes people uncomfortable. Christian morality points out people's sin. And when you point out people's sin, they get uncomfortable. If they're not already, if they're not Christians who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Because if they are, we know what our sins are, and if we're not aware of it, when somebody points it out, we'll repent. But the world doesn't see it that way. This documentary talks about Christians being activated and mobilized and radicalized. Meanwhile, when secular ideologies like Antifa, they lobby, they litigate, regulate, mandate, that's all fine and dandy. Christians have a duty to stand up for, just like people are always told, stand up for what you believe in. I guess that's unless you're a Christian, and then you got to sit in the corner and be quiet. Is that it? Because if that's what you want, Christians aren't the ones. Christians aren't the ones. Christian influence, according to the left, according to what we're seeing right now in our public discourse, is extremism. Erica Kirk forgiving the man who killed her husband publicly, that's extremism. It's jarring, but it's also what Christians are commanded to do. People don't like that Christian morality says no to certain things. It says no to the redefinition of family. It says no to killing of unborn children. It says no to the erasure of sexual differences. Those aren't restrictions. Those are biblical directives designed to enhance our lives. But because of the nature of man, the fallen nature of man, if you're not a Christian, then it feels like a restriction. And of course, there are people who say Christians should just stay in the building, just preach the gospel, stay out of politics, don't seek power. And that sounds humble, I guess. That sounds pious. That sounds I don't know, whatever. But it's historically ignorant. The men who built the civilization that so many are actively trying to destroy right now, they didn't stay in their prayer closet. They built legal systems. They built universities. They built hospitals. They built the abolition movement. Yeah. It was Christians that were behind the abolition of slavery. But details, I guess, right? So people are free. Christians are free to enjoy, avoid politics, because that ability was purchased by Christians who did not. the moral vacuum doesn't stay empty. It's going to get filled by something. And when Christians stepped back, we saw it get filled by abortion. We saw it get filled by transgenderism. We saw it get filled by all kinds of ridiculous things that we're just now starting to see the folly of that. But it's so entrenched that it's going to be hard for people to pull back from that. They framed this documentary, and I am going to watch it when it's finally available. But they framed this documentary, as I said, as a mobilization to radicalization. And people may have problems with how big the memorial was, but that wasn't his funeral per se. That was a gathering of people who appreciated and wanted to celebrate his life. But mourning the dead, especially somebody who had such a big influence on so many people, is not extremism. It's not radicalization. It's not militancy. Suffering has always been a part of the Christian experience. We know that the nature of this world brings suffering, but our faith gets us through. If a famous Muslim in a Muslim country or even in this country, if a famous Muslim were assassinated and Muslims gathered in a memorial like that, that would be framed as solidarity. That would be framed as mourning. That would be framed as something good to emulate, as something worthy of celebration. But because it was Christians, it's unacceptable. And that is why they frame it as a threat. When Christians do it, they frame it as a threat. And that should tell you everything you need to know. They fear Christians gaining influence and shaping policy that, as I said before, makes them uncomfortable. You can have faith, just don't let it matter in the public sphere. But what they fail to recognize is that hospitals, human rights, abolition, universities, a whole host of things that we take for granted, that we value but take for granted, have their roots in Christianity and Christian values. One of the most feared military arms during military branches through the Crusades were the Hospitallers or Hospitallers. They set up hospitals, but they also fought fiercely They were a Christian sect. We are the beneficiaries of Christian architecture, whether you want to believe it or not. Period. End of story. And despite comparisons to despite the label of Christian fundamentalism or fundamentalist religion, this is not about theocracy. Christians are not interested in establishing a theocracy, unlike Muslims. It's about stewardship. It's about believing that Jesus Christ is Lord over law, over rulers, over nations. And you don't get to compartmentalize sovereignty. It's moral responsibility. And if you refuse to step up and try and shape the law will shape you. The law will shape your children. They call it nationalism. They call it radicalization. They call it dangerous. They call Christianity dangerous. But what they're really saying is that Christian men should not defend the civilization that Christianity built. And that's not holy, that's not humility, that's surrender. Like I said, we are standing on the architecture, the civilizational architecture that Christianity built. And the only question is, are we going to defend it? All right, there were a few other things I wanted to get to. Some, you know what, let's see. Do I have it readily available here? Yeah, this is only one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze, she is a savage, and there's a representative from Texas, Tony Gonzalez, and if you're not familiar with him, just check this out. Now, if you're not familiar, Tony Gonzalez, he had an affair with one of his staffers, and eventually she ended up setting herself on fire. That's what that was from. I know it's not funny, but I encourage you to check that out. That was absolutely hilarious. She pulled no punches. But that is it for this briefing. Thank you all for being here. I urge you to go ahead and check out the SHR Media Shop. And and check out all the great t-shirt designs that we have over there. We're not just here to fill airtime. We're here to equip men, Christian men, to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope to the next generation. If this matters to you, don't just watch this show. Go ahead and share it and bring another man into this battle that we're engaged in. And if you want to, as I said, wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs that we have there in the SHR shop, as well as the 7 Armors shop. Designs about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.